I mean, this is ridiculous.
The stress in Rob Karkut's voice
You tell me how long I should or shouldn't be on site now.
haunts his widow, Andrea Holden.
I think it's really unrealistic and unfair.
She still can't understand how it got so bad. Rob was an inspector with the Victorian Building Authority. He became so overwhelmed by the way he was treated that 12 months ago, he took his own life.
Rob loved his job. His job was his life.
He didn't want to be anything else.
No. I remember being in the middle of the outback in the USA, and he said to the guy who owned the motel that we stayed at, "Do you know you've got a problem in the bathroom?" And the guy actually said to him, "Rob, you're on holidays. You don't need to do inspections here."
What was his personality like?
He was a very, very big personality, very full of life.
Rob, along with 40 highly skilled building and plumbing inspectors, was employed by the watchdog to weed out non-compliant work on building sites. We've been told VBA management was more interested in being seen to be doing the right thing rather than actually doing it. It meant the inspectors were left in the impossible position of not being able to do their jobs properly. What was Rob's main worry at work that he was communicating to you about the VBA?
His main worries were the KPIs.
So inspection targets.
Inspection targets, numbers. I felt very stressed for him because when he'd leave for the day, you would never know what the day would bring. For him to say he wasn't coping, for him to say he was stressed, for him to have to go to work every day, or like we used to say, go to war, to me, it's unforgivable. And it's just not fair.
The inspectors were pressured to complete around 60 inspections a month, regardless of the faults they found. It came after the Victorian government in 2020 ordered the VBA to increase the number of inspections of new buildings. I'm talking about builders, making sure builders live up to the standard.
Build good product, is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah,
and the buck stops with the VBA.
Well, of course it does.
Is the Victorian Building Authority broken?
No, I'm not here to say that. That's your question, and I'm not here to say yes to that.
And it seems the Premier Daniel Andrews actually believes that the VBA are doing their job, tidying up the industry. But the inspectors we've spoken to disagree. They say the workload is unmanageable and the VBA simply don't care.
They'd have problems with management if they didn't meet their targets. So there'd be consequences. He was so particular and he couldn't shortcut jobs.
Did he feel like he was being pressured into shortcuts?
Of course. They were all being pressured to do their jobs.
Those 3 sites not ready.
Rob Karkut was motivated by making sure the buildings he inspected were properly constructed. But when he defended his work to his managers, he was ignored.
I'm trying to cover my backside because I think you're becoming unrealistic with your expectations.
So a lot of this is Rob's correspondence with the VBA?
Yes, it is.
Rob documented every single detail of his work to protect himself, believing he was a target. He feared he would be managed out of a job.
He was trying to fight to do his job. And for him not to be able to do what he was employed to do was heartbreaking.
Did you tell him just to leave?
Told him to leave. And he said, "Andrea, there's a lot of people relying on me and I can't let go."
I've got a diary full of inspections. Yesterday I went to 7 jobs.
And so he's quite desperate in this email to the union.
He is.
Rob was a member of the union and he told them of his struggles in many emails.
Put simply, it is much easier to overlook building issues than to find and deal with non-compliances.
The union was so concerned it informed the VBA managers, raising their fears they were worried someone was going to take their own life. Tragically, the union was right.
I was devastated. No mental health issues in the past, other than what he had from work. So in my mind, they caused his death. I had so much anger because it was only work to me. But to him it was important.
It's something Premier Daniel Andrews says he is now aware of. But the inspectors claim the government knew about the toxic culture for some time, but failed to act.
There was a tragedy at the VBA not long ago, and that exposed some very significant cultural issues there.
In February 2022, was your government not alerted to the fact that there was serious workplace problems within the VBA?
Well, are you drawing a link between the tragedy and that brief or report at that point in time?
No, I'm simply asking...
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought your question was drawing that very direct link.
I'm simply asking whether the government knew about the workplace problems that were within the VBA and what action that they took before that worker took his own life.
Well, I certainly didn't.
Hopefully, the Premier will have more luck getting answers out of the VBA than we did. They refused our request for an interview.